The slave market on planet Drozic 4 was loud, dirty, and cruel. Bright lights flashed, music played. Alien traders laughed and shouted as they sold others like animals. Most were female, scared, skinny, and silent. Inside a cold metal cage, one alien girl sat with her arms around her knees. Her name was Zira. She didn't remember how long she had been here. Her skin was pale blue, her hair dark and messy. She wore a thin cloth, barely enough to cover herself. Her eyes were dull, empty. She had stopped crying a long time ago. Personal slave, the seller shouted to the crowd. Fresh, young, obedient. 5 credits only. No one came closer. One alien laughed. She's broken. Doesn't even speak. Another shouted, You'll get more fun from a robot. The seller growled. He kicked the cage. Stupid girl, smile. Show them you're not useless. Zira didn't move. Her body flinched at the kick, but she stayed quiet. Then someone else walked forward. A human. The crowd became quiet for a second. Humans didn't come here often, especially not to buy slaves. He was tall and strong, with rough skin and short dark hair. A long scar ran across his cheek. He wore a soldier's jacket, dusty boots, and a cold expression. The seller smiled. Wide. Ah, a human. Good taste, sir. For only 5 credits, you can enjoy this little toy all night. You want her? She's all yours. The human didn't reply. He stood in front of the cage, his face unreadable. Zira looked up slowly. Their eyes met. For a moment, nothing moved. The noise of the market faded. He didn't look at her body like the others. He didn't smile, didn't laugh. He only looked into her eyes. Then he knelt down not to touch her. Not to command her, but to speak at her level. What's your name? He asked quietly. The seller blinked. Name? Who cares? She's a slave, not a person. But the human kept his eyes on Zira. Do you have a name? Zira's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her heart raced. No one had asked her that since she was taken. Not once, not ever. The seller grew impatient. Look, human, do you want her or not? The man stood up slowly. He reached into his pocket and threw 5 metal credits onto the seller's table. I'll take her, the seller grinned. Good choice, sir. No refunds. A few moments later, Zira was pulled out of the cage. She stumbled, weak. Her hands shook. A collar was removed from her neck. The seller shoved her toward the human. She's all yours. Enjoy. The human didn't touch her. He simply said, Follow me. Zira obeyed silently. Her feet moved on their own. Her mind was frozen. She expected pain, rough hands, dirty rooms. That's how it always went. But when they reached his ship, he didn't take her to a private room. He showed her a small corner with a blanket, a pillow, and clean water. This is your space, he said. You're safe here. Zira stared in confusion. Safe? What did that even mean? Later that night, he sat on the floor across the room. He didn't say much, didn't stare. Just checked some tools and looked tired. Zira sat curled in the corner, still awake. She waited for the moment he would change like the others always did, but he never came closer. When the lights dimmed, he walked past her slowly. She flinched. Instead of touching her, he placed a second blanket near her feet, and then he lay down on the floor far from her and fell asleep. Zira watched him in the dark. What kind of man was this? Why didn't he want anything? Why did he ask her name? She touched the blanket. Gently, it was soft. Warm, her eyes stung. She didn't understand it. But for the first time in years, a single tear rolled down her cheek. Zira did not sleep that night. She sat in the corner of the ship, knees pulled to her chest, eyes wide open in the dark. The soft blanket lay untouched beside her. She kept staring at the human. He had not moved. He still lay far across the room on the cold metal floor, one arm over his eyes. He didn't snore. He didn't turn. He just breathed slowly, as if sleep came easily to him. Zira had seen many men sleep, but never like this, never with peace. She waited for the moment he would get up. Maybe he was pretending. Maybe he was waiting until she let her guard down. She had seen kindness before. It always turned cruel later, but morning came. He woke up and walked right past her, not a single word, not a single glance. He made something in the small kitchen. A strange smell filled the air, salty and warm. Her stomach growled. She looked down in shame. Then a bowl slid quietly toward her across the floor. She looked up sharply. He wasn't even facing her anymore. Just said 2 words. Eat this. She stared at the bowl. The food didn't look fancy, some thick stew, soft bread, and a slice of fruit. But it was real, warm, fresh. She hadn't eaten real food in weeks. Zira hesitated, then picked it up and ate fast. She didn't even taste it. Her hands shook. She expected the bowl to be taken away midway, like always, but it wasn't. He never even turned around. Hours passed. The human, his name still unknown to her, worked on the ship, fixed wires, replaced panels. He was quiet, focused. Zira watched him like a small animal watching a fire, curious and afraid. Finally she spoke, just 1 word. Why? He stopped moving, turned slowly to face her. Why what? She swallowed. Her voice was weak. Why are you not like the others? He wiped sweat from his brow. Because I'm not like them. She looked away. You bought me. Yes. For what? I didn't buy a toy, he said calmly. I bought your freedom. Zira blinked. That word freedom felt heavy in her chest. That's not how it works, she whispered. He didn't argue. He didn't try to explain. He just said, you don't owe me anything. Stay if you want. Or leave when we reach the next safe planet. She stared at him. If I leave, won't you lose your credits? I don't care. Zira felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Confused. This man didn't want her body, didn't want her words, didn't even want thanks. He just wanted her to be free. That night, the ship flew through stars, quiet, peaceful. Zira didn't curl in fear this time. She sat on the blanket, legs stretched. She didn't sleep, but she didn't tremble either. She looked at the human again. This time, not in fear. He caught her gaze. And for the first time, he smiled, just a little. She looked away quickly, heart pounding. Why did that smile feel warmer than the blanket? The next day, he gave her clothes. Simple, clean, and soft. Your size might be smaller, he said, but it's better than slave rags. She touched the fabric. Her fingers trembled. She went into the small washroom and changed slowly. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she didn't recognize the girl looking back. Zira, that was her name. She almost forgot it. Now it sounded like it mattered again. As the ship passed through starfields, something inside her began to shift. Not trust. Not yet, but a seed. A thought. Maybe I'm not just property. Maybe, just maybe. The strange human meant it. The stars outside the ship didn't move. But inside her heart, something was beginning to shift. Zira sat at the small window, watching the darkness stretch forever. Her hands were folded on her lap. Her new clothes no longer felt strange. They felt quiet, safe, but the silence between her and the human was heavier than before. He hadn't asked her anything since she came aboard. He hadn't touched her. He hadn't even looked at her like a man looks at a woman. And somehow, that made her more afraid than anything else. Because now she didn't understand what he wanted. So that night, as he sat at the ship's control panel fixing a blinking screen, she stood slowly. Her voice was quiet. Do you want to know my name? He didn't turn around. I already do, he said calmly. She blinked. No, you don't. I never told you. He finally looked at her, his eyes steady. Your name is whatever you choose it to be. That made her chest tighten. She took a breath. Zira, she whispered. My name is Zira. A pause. Then he nodded. Zira, it's a strong name. She stared at him. He had no reaction, no surprise, no smile. Just calm acceptance. And that's when she broke. She dropped to her knees in front of him. Sell me. He blinked, confused. What? She looked up, tears forming. Sell me to someone else, please. He stood up quickly. Why are you saying that? I don't belong here, she said. I'm not useful. I can't cook, I can't fight, I can't fix your ship. I'm not even. She stopped, voice cracking. I'm not even a real person anymore. His face tightened. Don't say that. It's true, she whispered. I was owned. Since I was 13. They trained me to be pretty, to smile, to serve in bed. That's it. That's all I know. I don't know how to be free. He didn't speak. He just listened. Zira lowered her head. If you keep me here, I'll ruin you. You'll hate me one day. You'll look at me like they did. It's better if you let me go now. Sell me. Get your money back. The silence that followed was sharp and heavy. Then, slowly, he sat down on the floor beside her. I'm not going to sell you, Zira. Why not? Because I don't buy people to own them. I bought your freedom. That means you don't belong to anyone. Not even me. She shook her head, her tears falling now. You don't understand. I don't know what to do without orders. Then I'll give you one, he said, voice steady. She looked up. Live, he said. Breathe, sleep, eat, laugh, cry. That's your new order. Be a person. Learn who Zira really is. She stared at him, her lip trembling. No one's ever said that to me before. I know. Later that night, Zira sat alone in her corner again, but something inside her had changed. She no longer felt like a shadow. She had a name again. A voice again. And for the first time, a choice. She whispered her name to herself. Zira. It didn't sound broken anymore. The first time she ran away. She didn't even know why. There was no shouting. No chains, no cruel hands, just silence. And that scared Zira more than anything else. The quiet kindness of the human felt like a trap she couldn't see. So one morning, before the sun star of Delta 9 rose, she quietly stepped off the ship while he was sleeping. She wore the plain brown cloak he gave her, slipped into the crowded spaceport, disappeared. She didn't leave a note, because she didn't believe he would care. The market outside was bright and noisy. Alien traders shouted, machines hummed. The smell of oil, fried food, and dirty water filled the air. Zira moved quickly, head low, trying to vanish in the chaos. He'll forget me, she whispered. He'll be better off. But within 10 minutes, they spotted her. 3 thugs. Big, ugly, laughing. She looks clean. One said, grabbing her arm. She's alone, said another. Easy money. Zira struggled. Let me go. The third one licked his lips. No collar? Even better. We'll break her in ourselves, she screamed. She kicked, but they were stronger. She felt her heart race. Panic rising. The old fear crawling back. Then dash bang. A sharp sound tore through the air. One of the thugs dropped to the ground, shouting in pain. A laser shot burned through his leg. The crowd scattered. Zira turned in shock. There he was. The human. His eyes were cold, his jaw tight. His blaster raised. Touch her again, he said, and I'll forget I'm trying to be peaceful. The thugs ran. One limped. One cried. One cursed. Zira stared at him, frozen. He walked toward her, but before she could speak, bang! A fourth thug, hidden in the shadows, fired back. The shot hit him in the shoulder. He dropped his blaster, staggered. Blood flowed. No! Zira screamed. Everything blurred. She ran to him, caught him before he fell. Why? Why did you come for me? He gritted his teeth. Because I said, you're free. Not alone. She pressed her hands against his wound, shaking, crying. I left. I didn't think you'd come. He smiled weakly. Bad guess. At the ship, she dragged him to the med bed. Her hands didn't stop moving. She wrapped the bandages like he taught her, injected the pain shot, used everything he'd stored in the cabinet, never thinking she'd need it for him. He didn't pass out, but he groaned. Did you at least enjoy the market? She choked on a laugh. Then a sob, tears spilled down her face. This time she wasn't crying for herself. She was crying for someone else, for him. When he woke later, she was still beside the bed. Holding his hand tightly, he blinked at her. Still here? She nodded. He whispered, You're not a prisoner. I know, she said. You're not a slave. I know. Then why are you still holding my hand? Zira smiled, eyes full of tears. Because I don't want to run anymore. Zira stepped off the ship like she owned the stars. Not because someone told her to. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. Her back was straight, her hair clean. Her new clothes fit her well, simple but strong. No chains, no collar. Just quiet confidence. The human walked beside her through the busy trade station. Tall, calm, eyes watchful. People stared. Some whispered, That's the ex-slave girl, right? He's keeping her as a pet. Humans are strange. Zira heard them, but she didn't lower her head. She had done that all her life. Not anymore. They entered the Galactic Council Hall, a place of power, of politics, of old alien men in robes and translators whispering in their ears. The human had come to ask for clearance to trade supplies. A routine visit. Zira could have stayed on the ship, but he had asked her, Want to come with me? And she had said yes. Now, as the guard scanned them, one of the alien officers raised an eyebrow. You brought your companion? He asked. With a smirk. She has a name, the human replied. Zira. Still, the officer chuckled. A former slave has no standing here. You may enter. She may wait outside. Before the human could speak, Zira stepped forward. I'll wait. But not because you told me to. The officer blinked. Then chuckled. Spicy little thing, isn't she? The human didn't smile. She's not a thing, remember that. Later, outside the council doors, Zira waited on a bench. She didn't feel weak anymore. She remembered every word that had cut her down over the years. Be silent. Smile pretty. Don't speak unless asked. You're lucky we keep you alive. Now she sat tall, her eyes watching the stars through the glass ceiling. Not silent. Not afraid. When the human came back out, he looked tired. She stood. How did it go? He sighed. Slow, boring. Important stuff always is. She gave a small smile. You always do important things quietly. He shrugged. Loud people rarely change anything. That evening on the ship, she cooked him something from his homeworld, using ingredients they bought at the market. It wasn't perfect, but he smiled when he tasted it. You're learning, he said. I'm trying, she answered. He nodded. That's all anyone can ask for. Before bed, she stood at the mirror, touched her own face, whispered, I looked like nothing once. Now I look like someone. She turned to the small screen beside the bed, tapped a few keys, and began writing her own name over and over. Zira, Zira, Zira. Because one day, she'd make the whole galaxy remember it. The message came at midnight. No warning. No sound. Just a red light flashing on the com screen. The human pressed a button. A hologram appeared, an alien noble, tall and cold-eyed, wearing a dark robe. His voice was sharp like a blade. That girl. Zira, she is mine. Return her within 3 days or face charges for stealing property. Zira stood frozen in the doorway. She heard every word. The human said nothing. His jaw clenched. He ended the message with one tap. Silence filled the ship. Zira's voice trembled. He found me. The human looked at her. You knew him? She nodded. He bought me when I was 14. Sold me when I cried too much. Her hands curled into fists. If he claims me under trade law, you'll lose everything. Your ship, your name, maybe even your life. He stepped forward, calm, firm. I won't give you back. They landed on Rutha 7 the next morning, neutral planet. A place where old laws still ruled, and the council listened to power, not truth. Zira wore the same clothes she always did, simple, clean. But her heart beat like thunder. The alien noble was waiting at the court. He smiled when he saw her. There's my little pet. Zira looked away. The human stepped between them. No, he said. She's not yours, not anymore. The noble raised a brow. Do you know what she is, human? She was trained to kneel, to serve. That's all she knows. And you're wasting her. I know what she is, the human replied. She's someone. The noble chuckled. Not under galactic law. Inside the court, judges in glowing robes listened from high seats. The noble stood proudly. She was bought under Slave Code 9X. That contract never expired. She is marked. She is mine. Zira stepped forward. Her voice cracked. I was sold, hurt, left to rot. She is speaking without permission, the noble sneered. The lead judge nodded. Human, do you have proof of legal ownership? The human stood tall. I don't own her. No one does. But I paid the last seller. I freed her. That's all. Then she is still property under trade law. The judge replied. Zira's heart dropped. The noble smirked. But the human wasn't finished. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small chip. Inserted it into the council screen. A law file opened. Old, dusty, forgotten. Galactic. Code 12A. If a free citizen publicly declares a former slave as family, no ownership may apply. The court fell silent. The judge blinked. This law is ancient, but still valid, the human said. Then turned to the noble and spoke loud and clear. Her name is Zira, and she is my family. Gasps filled the hall. Zira stared at him, eyes wide. Family? He turned to her slowly. Not property. Not prisoner. My people have no kings, but we choose our family. And I choose you. Tears fell down her face before she could stop them. The noble shouted, This is madness. The judge raised a hand. It is law. She cannot be reclaimed. Case closed. Outside the court, under the soft blue sun, Zira stood beside him, speechless. Why? She finally whispered. He looked at her. Calm as always. Because no one is putting you back in chains, not while I'm breathing. The dress was soft. Not expensive, not fancy. But soft. Zira had never worn one before, not like this. Not for herself, that it wasn't made to please someone. It wasn't tight, or revealing, or forced upon her. It flowed like starlight down her legs. Light blue, like her skin. Gentle, like her heart finally felt. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. A girl who once hid in cages, who flinched at footsteps, who forgot her name. Now she stood tall, her shoulders proud, her eyes full of something she had never dared to feel before, hope. Outside the room, the human stood in his old military jacket. Clean-shaven, nervous. For the first time, he wasn't the calm one. He adjusted his collar, then checked the small box in his hand. Inside was a ring, not gold, not jewels, just a smooth band made from star metal. Simple, honest, strong, like everything between them. He looked up as Zira walked out. His breath caught. You look. He stopped. She smiled gently. Strange? He shook his head. Like yourself. They stood before the small crowd, only a few friends they had met in their journey. A quiet old alien priest read ancient words from a glowing tablet. Do you choose each other? He looked at Zira. She didn't hesitate. I choose him. He nodded. I choose her. The priest smiled. Then let this bond be known across stars and systems. Not of ownership, not of duty, but of will. Of love, of freedom. He handed them the ring. The human slid it on her finger, his hand shaking. Zira whispered, "I never thought I'd live to see a moment like this." He replied, "I never thought I'd meet someone like you." Later, they danced slowly beneath the stars. No music, no stage. Just two people who had once been broken. Now whole. Zira looked up at him. "Do you remember when I told you to sell me?" He nodded. "I was wrong," she said. "You didn't save me by buying my freedom." He raised an eyebrow. "No," she touched his chest gently. "You saved me by giving me a reason to want it." That night, before sleep, she wrote something in her journal for the first time. Name, Zira status, free title, wife, and below it, she added a final line. "I was once property, now I am loved."